Bill Gates has got big plans for partnerships with other countries. The most recent on his list is South Korea. He just gave a speech at the National Assembly in Seoul this week and called for South Korea to become a leader in global health cooperation. In this video, we'll be talking about how the Microsoft co-founder is making moves to get South Korea on board his global health plans. Let's get right into it. First off, Gates visited South Korea this Tuesday for his big speech. Addressing the Parliamentary Budgeting Committee at the National Assembly in Seoul, Gates urged South Korea to step up to help end global infectious diseases like COVID-19. Gates visited the National Assembly at the invitation of the Speaker, Kim Jin-pyo himself. Before this, he also held a 40-minute meeting with the parliamentary leader before his big speech to discuss his plans. So, what was his speech all about? With the pandemic just behind us, the billionaire's not taking any risks. Gates described our current situation as a crisis moment in global health that needs immediate attention so that we can be better prepared for the next pandemic. Speaking to South Korean lawmakers, he said, "Korea's poised to be a leader in this work, calling for stronger international cooperation. He's looking forward to collectively developing vaccines that would be effective for a broader range of coronaviruses." But why turn to South Korea to play the leader role? Well, Gates believes if anyone must take the reins of global health progress, it has to be South Korea. He commended the strengths of South Korea that make it suitable for the leadership role, including its incredible vaccine manufacturing, diagnostic manufacturing, and R&D capabilities. The chairman of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has also complimented the country on how it has transformed a post-war economy into a powerhouse in a very short time. And that is something that we can all agree on. Korea's response to the pandemic was very impressive. After learning from its experience handling MERS, it managed to flatten the epidemic curve quickly without closing businesses and issuing stay-at-home orders. By 2020, it had successfully implemented many of the stricter SOPs adopted by high-income countries. It managed outbreaks in March and August very well and was miles ahead of any country in detecting, containing, and treating the virus. Yes, the country had a good GDP to thank, but its pandemic success story mainly comes from its contact tracing, comprehensive testing, and clear public guidelines. So naturally, Bill Gates wants other countries to follow in Korea's footsteps. The philanthropist said in his speech that he anticipates how Korea can help other countries follow this progress. Yep, Gates had nothing but praise for Korea's COVID response, applauding it as fantastic. After all, the country has helped in multilateral global health initiatives before. So, like its $200 million pledge to COVAX that provides vaccination to lower-income countries, now Gates hopes his foundation can reinforce its partnership within the country. Speaking on why it's important for global leaders to join hands, he told lawmakers that it's a crisis moment for global health. He said he was optimistic that it was fantastic time for his foundation to strengthen his partnership with Korea. And what role will his foundation play? Well, it aims to provide great ideas for new tools and more resources to help those most in need. The Microsoft founder believes it's the, quote, right thing and smart thing to do. Now, this isn't the first time the multi-billionaire stepped foot in Korea to talk about partnerships. He last visited the National Assembly 9 years ago at the invitation of the lawmaker then Chung Mong-jun to speak to some 40 lawmakers over similar plans. And then, in June this year, President Yoon Suk-yeol himself phoned Gates to discuss efforts to overcome the pandemic and how South Korea could help. And as you'd imagine, after his speech, Gates also shook hands with many important people to cement his partnership. Among the people he met, the most important on the list was President Yoon Suk-yeol. The president was just as eager to spearhead the partnership, revealing government plans to promote the country's biohealth industry. He also went ahead and expressed his commitment to further cooperate with the Gates Foundation to, quote, improve the health of global citizens. Of course, Gates couldn't be more grateful and said that South Korea has been a good partner in his foundation and health projects, including more accessible COVID-19 vaccines and work on HIV, malaria, and tuberculosis. According to Yoon's office, the entrepreneur said he hopes to do more together in the future, but his meetings didn't stop there. He then met leaders of the South Korean business to discuss their aid and cooperation on these health projects. So, what health projects can we expect Gates and South Korea to collaborate on? If all goes as planned, we're looking at increasing aid from Seoul for the Global Health Research Fund. What we do know from a statement by South Korea's Foreign and Health Ministries is that the agreement includes strengthening private and public sector cooperation between the Gates Foundation and Korea. You might remember SK Bioscience from the earlier pandemic days. This pharmaceutical arm of South Korea produces COVID-19 vaccines and has received funds from the Gates Foundation to develop nasal sprays to prevent coronavirus infections. Going forward, it's crucial the two work together on global health plans. Korea will help train 370 people from lower-income countries in producing vaccines this year. By 2026, this number is expected to rise to 2,000 people per year. The cooperation also means stepping up collaborations with health organizations like CEPI. CEPI is the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, and it works with public, private, philanthropic, and civil society organizations to develop vaccines against future epidemics. Think of it as preparing the country for any worst-case health scenario. We might not know the details yet, but we can tell the billionaire is very serious about his plans. Just this month, he also congratulated India PM Modi for prioritizing healthcare and digital transformation, securing it as another partner for his foundation. Who will Gates partner up with next for his global health mission? In other news, firstly, a South Korean fighter jet crashes during an operation over the Yellow Sea. A devastating tragedy happened this month. The Korean fighter jet F-4E crashed during a security mission over the Yellow Sea on Friday, reported the Air Force. Thankfully, two of its pilots escaped safely. The crash took place at 12:20 p.m. when the jet was on its way back to its base in Suwon, just 35 kilometers south of Seoul. As of now, there's no report to damage to civilians. What really caused the accident? The Air Force has set up a team to investigate the exact cause of the incidents. Now, coincidentally, the military was already working on a plan to decommission the aging fleet of F-4s and F-5s, first introduced here in the late 1970s. Maybe this tragedy will serve as a wake-up call. Next, Bloomberg says Bill Gates gave the secret push to save Biden's $370 billion climate bill. Yes, the multi-billionaire got on the phone at the last minute to secure his big green bets. Clean energy stocks made a strong comeback after the Senate passed the Inflation Reduction Act. This act talked about around $370 billion on climate and energy programs, and the bill was signed into law by President Biden himself. According to a recent report from Bloomberg titled Bill Gates and the Secret Push to Save Biden's Climate Bill, Gates was instrumental in pushing the bill through to the Senate. When senators were getting cold feet about the bill, one of the world's richest men felt he had to give one of the nation's most powerful lawmakers a little pep talk. So when Senator Joe Manchin wouldn't support the economic package, Gates didn't give up. He got on the phone with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer straight away. And in a surprising reveal, Manchin later announced that he reached an agreement with Schumer to vote on the climate pending package. Gates also started wooing Manchin and other senators who might prove pivotal for clean energy policy in 2019. And get this, all this was done over a meal in Washington, D.C. Talk about smooth talking. Now, Gates' organization has sunk at least tens of millions into green cement startups such as EcoChem, Cement, and Brimstone. No wonder the multi-billionaire is so serious about the green bill. And lastly, Bill Gates' nuclear startup wins $750 million but loses sole fuel source. When Gates isn't busy heading his charity foundation or talking to national assemblies, he's busy overseeing his nuclear startup, TerraPower. But the startup recently had some mixed news. The good news? The nuclear fission startup raised $750 million to develop advanced nuclear reactors as alternatives to light water reactors. Out of this, TerraPower notched a record-setting investment round of $250 million led by South Korea's SK. Previous funding for the firm has come from Gates and Warren Buffett. The company was also awarded $80 million from the U.S. Department of Energy to work on its natrium reactor design. But hold up, we also have bad news. TerraPower has no supplier of the enriched fuel it needs now that dealing with Russia's off the table. After Russia invaded Ukraine, things aren't looking profitable for TerraPower. Quote, Russia's fuel's no longer an option for us, unquote, said Jeff Navin, TerraPower's Director of External Affairs. TerraPower's got big goals for the future. It claims that its first reactor will be in operation by 2028 and will cost $4 billion. But looks like cash alone won't be enough to get the startup over the many obstacles in its way. And that is a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on Bill Gates pushing South Korea to be the global health leader? Let us know in the comments below. Do give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for similar videos.